Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Wajaha and today we are going to cover a new blockchain that's coming up pretty soon. It's an interesting one, and so I've got a presentation today that we're going to go over. So without further ado, let's get straight to it. Today we are talking about Celestia. Now, if you're new to the channel and you haven't seen any of the videos before, go and have a look at some of the videos that we've covered, covering other kind of projects, applications, blockchains. We cover all sorts of stuff on the channel, so go down and have a look, and hopefully you'll find something that you'll enjoy. But today we've got a presentation on Celestia. This is a new blockchain that I thought was quite interesting, and I thought let's make a video about it because I think it's something that's different, innovative, and it definitely is something that people will be talking about. So we're going to talk about Celestia, this new blockchain that's coming around. To kind of appreciate Celestia, we kind of I thought we'll first just talk about some of the issues that we have today, and Thor made a tweet just basically highlighting some of these things as well. So what he says is that today's issues are regarding cross-chain communication, roll-up scalability, and then of course maintaining a high enough security. And essentially this comes through this blockchain trilemma that we've had for such a long time. You know, you've got blockchains like Ethereum that have really good security but just cannot scale, and then you've got other kind of blockchains that can scale pretty well but have zero security. And maintaining some sort of balance between the three is very, very difficult. Celestia is very different to the blockchains that we have today. Now, today we have monolithic blockchains and we have modular blockchains. Now, monolithic blockchains are the ones that we're all familiar with. You know, the Ethereum, Cardano, Polygon, Avalanche, Solana. All of these are monolithic blockchains, and essentially they complete these four main tasks all in one area. So execution, settlement, consensus, and data availability. Execution is performing the function of the dApps that we use from day to day. Settlement being the overall state of the blockchain. Consensus being the kind of order of blocks that we get on the blockchain, and data availability, making sure that everyone has access to that data, that blockchain data that we have available. Now, these monolithic blockchains that we use from day to day, they do all of this stuff all in one go. They do it all together. Celestia is something different. Celestia is a modular blockchain, and what Celestia aims to do is to kind of separate all of these different functions into different layers, and by doing so, by outsourcing them, they're able to just really focus on what they need to do to get stuff done. And we've already seen some element of kind of this outsourcing already. I mean, we've seen it with layer 2s with Arbitrum and Optimism, which essentially have taken the execution layer. They complete that, but they obviously let Ethereum sort out the settlement, the consensus, and the data availability. So we've already seen some level of this outsourcing and how it has been successful. And the thing is, it can be even more efficient if we're able to separate some of these other kind of areas as well, by separating settlement, consensus, and data availability, as well as of course execution. It makes a lot more sense because it's way more efficient. And so that's essentially what Celestia is aiming to do. And you can see here, I took this diagram from their website. Essentially, they want to have different layers for, you know, of course, the dApp layer, where we've got all the DeFi, the NFTs, the DAOs, all the apps that we use from day to day. We've got all of them on one layer. We've got execution on another layer. And then essentially, we're going to have data availability and consensus and all that other stuff on another layer. And essentially, that's the plan with Celestia. Essentially, to kind of put it in a more understandable way, it's essentially combining Cosmos and Ethereum's kind of thesis. And this is really good if you are someone who believes in kind of the app chain theory. We'll go on to that in a short while, but essentially with Cosmos, you've got all these different blockchains. They all kind of talk to each other and whatnot, but one of the downsides is that they all have individual security. They don't have the same shared security that something like Ethereum has. The problem with Ethereum is it doesn't have the kind of separation that something like Cosmos does. So Celestia is essentially trying to combine them together, and that's kind of just makes it a lot more efficient, and of course gives that security as well that we need. So some of the advantages, you can read this off the screen as well. It becomes very, very easy to kind of deploy your own blockchain. You don't have to have the same overheads that you might have to with the security element with making your own blockchain. You can base by yourself without using Celestia. You can do it easily because Celestia will give that consensus and security that you need in order to deploy your own blockchain. They have something called data availability sampling that we'll talk about in a moment as well. Of course, there is going to be interoperability between everything that's built on Celestia, so they can all kind of communicate with each other in the form of bridging and whatnot that you'll have as well. And one of the best things as well that I think most other blockchains don't offer is that you can choose your own execution layer or your execution environment. So whether that's EVM or Cosmos SDK, you can have whatever you want, a mixture of the two even, and you can have that on chain. So as I was mentioning before, if you're someone who believes that the future of crypto or the future of DeFi is going to be predominantly a dApp layer future, where essentially rather than having Ethereum or Avalanche, you're going to have your own dApp chains that will basically do everything themselves, then something like Celestia is going to be really good. Now, app-specific chains are much better than having shared chains, and that's because they offer these 4 things that you can see on the right side. You can design your own environment, choose your own gas model, you can capture additional fees, can fork and make it much easier to recover from certain bugs, and it's a lot more reliable in terms of fee stability as well. You can see that shared composability, the main benefit is that all the other apps will have the kind of the same function, but there isn't that flexibility that you might want if you've got an app that's specific in a certain function. And so by using something like Celestia, you're able to really create something like this because, of course, everything is in a separate layer. The question is that I initially thought of was, isn't this similar to kind of what Atom, or I should say Cosmos actually, not Atom, or the Polkadot ecosystem offer? It is to some extent. I think the main difference being is that with Cosmos, every single kind of app has its own, or chain I should say, has its own security, whereas here in Celestia will have shared security, just like Ethereum would. With Polkadot, I think the main difference is that we can have different separate consensus mechanisms running at the same time. So you might want to have the Cosmos SDK or EVM or whatever. You can have different consensus mechanisms running on all your kind of products as well. I think, of course, the other difference, if we go back to the start, is kind of separating like data availability and consensus as well. So, let's move on to that thing that I mentioned before about data availability. So in a modular blockchain, data availability sampling is achieved by enabling a node to verify a block with a tiny sample. So essentially a node, rather than sampling the entire blockchain, only needs to verify a small amount of data, and therefore anything like even a smartphone can act as a node. So, what actually is data availability? Well, essentially it's allows anyone to inspect or kind of view the record of transactions, verify it, and basically if you're using any monolithic blockchain like Ethereum or Avalanche, basically you download the entire data available from the very start of that particular blockchain. And that becomes a problem when you scale that blockchain because there is so much data. There's so much data and it becomes really impractical to use it on a day-to-day basis. And therefore, eventually there becomes a point in time where there's so much data, it's so big that you actually can't even verify stuff anymore. And so Celestia are using this new technique called data availability sampling, where normal users can check if the data has been published correctly by downloading only a tiny portion of that data, making it possible to verify kind of large blocks at low cost, essentially. So yeah, that's pretty much kind of an overview of Celestia. I thought we'll just talk a little bit about kind of what their plans are going forward. They have announced that there will be some sort of token. It's going to be used for 2 functions: transaction fees on the network as well as staking. And they did mention that they will implement something similar to what Ethereum had with EIP 1559, so that they will have obviously inflation with their token, but also some level of burning of transactions to ensure that the new token issuance is capped or somewhat, especially as it gains kind of more adoption as well. They have had some funding as well. Interestingly, they in just October 2022, so not too long ago, they were able to raise $55 million. So a fair amount, and their seed funding was quite small at only 1.5 million. You can see that Binance Labs were involved as well, and you've got some of the common names with some of these investors as well that some of you will be familiar with as well. So they have got some funding, and hopefully that gives them enough runway to actually kind of start creating some really innovative stuff, build some partnerships, and essentially create that framework that we need in order to really get started. So that's going to be really exciting to see. And their team is really interesting as well. They've got Mustafa as the CEO, who has got a PhD in blockchain scaling. I have actually watched some of his interviews. He does these long talks on YouTube that are some like 1 hour plus long talks that are definitely very interesting, and the guy clearly knows what he's talking about. We've actually got Ismail as well, who actually was working at Tendermint as well. We've got the creator of Optimistic Rollups as well, with John Adler, and we've got the former CEO of Harmony as well, so definitely some experience in creating layer ones there as well. So quite a strong team, and you can see that if you actually go to their page, they've got 20 or 30 other kind of team members there in their profiles as well. So I thought just to highlight really that this is a team that really kind of has some experience already and kind of knows what they're doing. So let's see kind of what happens over time, but this is always a good thing to see. And in terms of their roadmap, they are planning to do an incentivized testnet. So when that goes live, that will be something that I think all of us should be looking into, especially if we want to consider the potential for an airdrop. I'm not saying that there will be one, but you never know really. And of course, hopefully there will be some sort of mainnet launch. I think the picture that I've got here is old. It should be 2023. So hopefully later on in the year we should see some mainnet launch for Celestia, which is going to be very exciting. So yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to cover today. Let's go back to the start. I hope that you found this video helpful. It's just a brief overview of Celestia and kind of some of the stuff that it's trying to tackle and some of the interesting parts of it. I thought the idea of modular versus monolithic blockchains was very interesting. So that's all I wanted to really share with you. If you guys have any questions, let me know in the comment section below. What are you most excited about? And if you've got any other kind of new blockchains, layer 1, layer 2s, or even something new, let me know in the comment section below. I'll try and make some content about it as well. If you like the video, smash the like button. It really helps me out. And of course, I'll be back with another video soon.